Okay, we're gonna go back to the neck for a minute and back to these exercises, but we're gonna do them, slightly differently. So this time, I'm gonna do this to the side exercise, but I'm gonna add this arm reaching away, and I'm gonna do a slow exploration of this lateral arc, just going slow and looking for the tightest places and kind of hanging out in them and adding this reach away to accentuate the pull on it. So you can do that for a while. Then we're gonna add weight, the weight of the arm to this, still reaching away, and just let this add to the stretch. And then I'm gonna hook my fingers onto the occiput and I'm gonna traction and add a little more stretch. So I'm pulling away from my arm. And then this hand is gonna drop down into a nice side of the neck massage and work that whole area between the base of the skull and the junction with the shoulder. Get right in that angle. All the while I'm reaching away. Okay, and then we're gonna arc over to the other side. So first I'm just slow arcing, exploring with the reach. And again, the two sides might be quite different. So I'm gonna find places where it just feels a little tight, work them, and then go back to integrating it a bit. And then we're going to add weight, just the weight of this arm added to the neck stretch. Then I'm going to hook on, add traction, and you just kind of count a number of respirations or just a hard count. And then into the massage, side of the neck massage. This always feels so good, but it really does work best, skin on skin. So whatever clothes you have on, you try to get underneath. Okay, and then as we finish that up, we're gonna go all the way around again with the head, alternating directions, integrating and getting all the places that maybe weren't quite part of the other stretch. So we'll do half a dozen of these. And I'm going to finish with the head hanging, and we're going to massage the scalp again, but this time I'm going to use more of a claw, and I'm going to have a more invigorating. So even if you can either use your fingertips or your fingernails, or both. Start with the fingertips, they're a little softer, and then the fingernails and really scrub and get the whole scalp and top, sides, back. And then smooth your hair out so that doesn't feel funny. And then we're gonna do some tapping massage. So this is an open palm, just slap the whole side of the neck all the way out to the shoulder joint, kind of integrating all that stuff that we did back and forth. And then let's go to the other side, same thing. I just support the elbow here, and it's just a loose floppy wrist. Your hand cup the shape of your shoulder. I'm actually getting the back some too. And then we're going to change sides again. This time I'm going to do a loose fist and get a more invigorating, harder tap. Same basic idea, but it definitely feels different. It feels better, it certainly gets deeper. And then the other side, same thing. Give yourself a good massage, good tap. Okay, let's finish with a few shoulder rolls. We would just do 3 back and 3 forward. And okay, so now we'll go to the hips. And here I like to just get my hands out of the way a little bit. And I'm gonna pivot on the ball of the foot, wag my knee back and forth. So I'm isolating the hip joint, so all the action is in here. I'm just turning my knee and pivoting on the foot back and forth. So maybe a dozen of those, 10 or 12, and then we'll switch sides, same thing. Exactly the same thing, but this time I want you to focus on your heel, turn it back and forth. So it's doing exactly the same muscles and thing in here, but it feels quite different depending on where you're focused. So one time I do the knee, one time I do the foot. Next time you do it, you can reverse it. Just back and forth. We're just kind of warming up the hip joint. Now we're going to go a little further, so switch back. So I want to be a little less than shoulder width apart, and I'm going to pivot on the heel this time and get those toes pointed to the other heel. I'm just going to pivot in and out, back and forth, so it's still working the hip joint. So now, if you're too close, you bump into yourself. If you're too far away, you can't go very far. So we're trying to find that kind of perfect sweet spot where your toes just miss by half an inch or an inch, somewhere in there, that range, back and forth. And I kind of watch my toes. So what we want to, by looking down and watching our toes, we're also going to see, I don't want to be doing this. So that's cheating. You see how I turn my pelvis? I want to keep my pelvis facing straight ahead. Let's switch feet. So in and out as far as I can go. And again, the two sides might be quite different. But I mean, the pelvis might move a little bit, but basically the pelvis stays looking straight ahead. So you really are isolating the lower extremity from the torso and not doing this kind of thing. Okay? So a dozen of those. And then I'm going to step forward a little bit. Let me pull my pants up a little bit. And I'm just going to rock my weight forward into my foot, bend my toes back, and push my ankle forward. So there's a stretch for the ankle and the foot, toes. You need me to go sideways a little bit. So in here, you don't want to be stepped out too far in front, but you also can't be, you need to step just a half a step in front of your other toes. And we'll finish with a little wobble. And then go to the other side, just step slightly forward, rocking your weight. Getting the ankle and the toes. So 8 to 12 of these, I'd say, per side is usually pretty good. We'll end with a little wobble. And now, this time we're going to rock to the outside and stretch the side of the legs and open up the ankles this way. So most ankle sprains are these lateral ankle sprains, so get these stretched out so they are much less likely to tear anything. So just rocking my weight, letting the weight do all the work. Okay, and now we're going to come up on our toes, getting those heels up as high as you can, and lowering back down. Just kind of rock back a little bit onto your heels and then rock forward and up. Almost as if you're being pulled up from the top of your head. And a dozen of those. Approximately is good. And then I'm going to do one where I'm kind of squeezing the the floor, the earth, with my feet and toes, kind of making more of an arch. I just squeeze and relax, squeeze and relax, squeeze and relax. Hopefully you can see that. You need to get closer for that. So I'm just squeezing, and see how this lifts up a little bit. So just squeeze and release, squeeze and release, squeeze and release. Okay, then we're going to shift to one side and pull the toes back. Stretch your calf, your gastrocnemius and soleus muscles, and just go one side to the other, back and forth. Oh, a dozen of these, 6 to each side. Probably good. Okay, now we're ready to go back to the hips. I'm gonna stand there and so this one challenges our balance too. We'll see how well I do today. I'm just gonna hug the knee to my chest. So I don't wanna be leaning into it this way. I wanna just be standing upright, but hug the knee to the chest for maybe 10 count. Okay, I'm gonna do the other side. Just alternate hug and hold, breathe, mind and breath in your belly. And we're going to go back to the first side. Basically the same thing, except this time we're going to add a little bit of movement of the knee left and right. Just getting a little arcing in there. Notice my hand hold, so I got one at the ankle and one at the knee. Okay, other side. So all of these are, somewhere in that maybe 6 to 12 range, whatever feels good. So initially, it might be hard to stand there on one leg, but hopefully we get better and better at that. So that's all about kind of centering and balancing too. It's a little hard to talk and do it and everything. So now we're going to do a third round. This time we're going to get as much arc with the knee as we can. Really wing it out, back and forth. Okay, and let's see, let's finish that up. Put the foot in your groin, and we're gonna then do what I call a half lotus stretch there. So your bottom of your foot is facing up, and you slide the hand out to the knee and kind of push that open a little bit, get a little more leverage, and just stand there for whatever your count is going to be, and then go to the other side. So we got to go back to the full sweeps of the knee. Sorry. Back and forth. Into the half lotus stretch, stance. And now coming out of this, we're not going to put a foot down. We're going to bring it around behind us. I'll turn. And this hand is just free. We're going to stretch the quadriceps now and breathe down into our knee joint. Okay, I'll turn around even further as I switch sides. So this is what it looks like from the back. And then we're going to go back back to the first side. This time I'm going to cradle the foot and drag my heel a little bit left and right across my glutes. And then we'll switch, same thing. Got the leg just above the ankle, and the other hand grabs the foot and drag the heel left and right. So you'll feel a little stretch on the inside and outside of the knee in the process. That's what we're trying to get, is that we're not always just stretching the same muscle fibers. We kind of get the whole thing involved. So round 3, we're going to hold the foot with both hands, and our thumbs are going to cover that point on the bottom of the foot, bubbling spring. And we're going to breathe. Sometimes I'll just pump it, massage it, and imagine we're breathing in and out of that point. And then we're going to tuck the pelvis and really accentuate the pull on the quadriceps in front. And yeah, so now we're going to finish up. So first I'm working the point. It's right there at the junction of the ball and the arch, right in the center, medial to lateral. And then we're going to finish with tucking the pelvis. Really gets a good strong pull on the muscles in front, your quadriceps. And then as I come out of it, I'm going to step out wide and I'll turn around so you can see. I want a nice wide stance to start. What's important here is that the feet are parallel, so toes not out. And I'm going to shift my weight. Once we're stretching these muscles in here, these are your adductors. And then I'm going to shift to the other side. And I can go back and forth, or I can go back and forth and hold, whatever feels best. But the critical thing is that the feet are parallel, or you lose the isolation of that muscle group. And so I'll just go back and forth, and so back to our dozen is my typical number. But now I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to put the heels of my palms right in the back of the pelvis, and as I shift to that side, I'm going to turn my upper body without letting my pelvis turn. So we start to get the iliacis muscles. So I just turn, and here I definitely pause briefly. But what I don't want is I don't want to get the pelvis twisting. I'm trying to keep it looking straight ahead again. I just want my waist, my upper torso to turn without turning my pelvis. And I'm just letting so another thing about this is your gaze stays at the same level the whole time. I'm not going up and down at all. It's just across. And I let my gaze kind of go a full 180 degrees from left to right and back. And like I said, now we're pulling on this muscle group. So psoas up here, iliacus down here are part of that complex. Okay, so now I'm gonna just go out into a lunge. So right angle on the leg, I'm just resting on my knee, and I'm gonna push off the back toes, rock my weight forward and back, and again, really stretching that iliacus muscle. And then we'll go to the other side, same thing. Squiggle that foot back till you've got all the slack out. And then push off the back toes to rock your weight. Okay, now we're going to go back to the first side, but this time I'm going to put my hands on my knees, squiggle the foot back, get the iliacus, all the slack out of that, and I'm going to add the psoas by pushing up, back, and away off the knee and thigh. And I'm going to work my hands from the knee closer and closer to my torso, which gets the psoas. And I'm also looking higher and higher up to the sky. And then we'll finish with a hold. Lay down on the thigh. You can walk around on the hands to the other side. Get all the slack out of the iliacus. Bring the hands up to the knee. Push off to get the psoas. And taking your gaze all the way to overhead to hold. And then we'll lay down on the thigh. Walk around to the center. Widen your stance as far as you can go. So there's a deep adductor stretch. So again, the feet are parallel. And just rest on the fingers, and we'll just breathe into the stretch, like gravity and time do its magic. And then we'll start to move it around a little bit by walking on the hands. I like to put one behind and one in front. Sort of toss my weight back and forth. And you can walk on your fists, your fingers, your hands flat, whatever works best for you. In the end, we're gonna brace. Use my fists and pull the feet into squat. And I'm gonna lace the fingers behind my head, drop my elbows between the knees, and hang. I'll get my back and my neck. It doesn't take long. I'm gonna want to wiggle my head around. And then we're gonna sit up and wedge the knees apart. Nice straight back, head up. Push those knees apart. We'll do 3 or 4 like that. And then maybe I'll wiggle around back and forth, and then I look left and right, and I switch my hands. So I'm mostly just putting the heel of the palm. I don't want to bend my wrist too far and hyperextend that, so I use the heels together and just make a straight line in my forearms, and just going back and forth, left and right, back nice and straight, head up, but I'm adding the neck, integrating the neck into it. Then I'm gonna just rock my weight out over the knee, get the heel of my foot off the ground, and so I'm letting gravity and my weight open up my ankle joint all the way around. So I'm just hanging out. A lot of times I put my chin on my knee, or sometimes I just hang there. And I'm gonna do be an 8 to 10 count. Toward the end, I just start to move it around a little bit, back and forth across the ball of my foot, and we'll rock over to the other side. Go back to stillness. The important thing, you don't have to be very far off the ground, but you need to get it off the ground and just let your weight stretch out all those tendons. So a lot of it's the Achilles tendon in the back, but all the tendons running through the ankle joint. And again, we'll just rock back and forth a little bit to end, and now we're going to go back to the first leg. And this time I'm just going to take that foot and drape it over the back of my heel so it's out of the way, but I don't have to hold it. And now the stretch is more up the whole calf, from my ankle to my knee. And again, that heel is just not quite touching. And so if it is touching, you got to get a little closer to yourself. So we'll do 10 or 12 count there, and then we'll switch sides. Same thing. Just really letting your calf stretch out. And we'll finish up by walking in place. And now we are trying to push the heel all the way to touch. Back and forth. And it should be pretty easy. If it's too easy, just walk a little closer to your hands, and makes it a little bit more difficult. And we don't want to get too close there because now we're going to just stretch and hold, what I call the tent stretch. So sacrum to the sky, try to get your ears kind of between your upper arms and the whole back of your body getting stretched here, with your sacrum being the peak of the tent. And after maybe 6-8 count, we're going to relax our knees, scoot our hands a little bit closer, and repeat. So now it should be harder. You're closer together, but the whole back of your body should be getting stretched from the heels of your hands to the heels of your feet, all getting stretched. And then we're going to walk out of it by slowly walking toward our hands, so we can't do it anymore. We're going to push off and hang. So now the knees are locked and the arms are just hanging. If you touch, make a loose fist. We just want our upper body to freely hang off the lower body. So that's part of why the knees have to be not hyperextended, but they should be locked. And after a little bit of that, I want you to let your face melt. Like every muscle in your face just lets go, like you're melting butter. Meanwhile, your hamstrings are getting stretched, your spine and your back is all getting stretched, your arms are lengthening totally without any effort there, just gravity. Then we're going to add the neck. We're just going to let it dangle front to back, and side to side. Maybe might feel more like a figure 8. And maybe we'll just do that again, front to back, side to side. And again, something you can just kind of play around with, see what feels best. And then we're going to, now you definitely probably want to make a loose fist. And we're going to let our arm and shoulders swing. And I kind of stagger the two so they don't collide with each other. If you're trying to do them together, they bump. So if you do them 180 degrees offset, and then we'll reverse direction, same thing. So it's all pretty easy in a way, but also very integrating, engaging different muscle groups, engaging the joints in a different way. Okay, now we're just going to reach out with our fingertips and see if you can touch your toes. And then we're going to bend our knees and straighten, really work on our hamstrings. So bending and straightening, and just trying to push on the toes at the top of your shoes. Maybe half a dozen like that. And then we're going to try to make it harder by getting our fingers underneath our toes and continuing. Maybe you want to grab your big toe, kind of squeeze it. And it should definitely be harder. And trying to get those knees completely straight. Stretch out your hamstrings. And then we're going to release and come around, cup our heels. Trying to get the fingers on the floor, but if you can't, just choke up to where you can do it. And continuing, so now it's harder still. Lengthen those hamstrings. All the while, we got blood rushing to our brains, our heads. We've been kind of inverted for a while now. We'll finish up by releasing and squeezing up the backs of our calves. Nice squeezing massage behind the knees and up onto the thighs and the hamstrings. All the way up onto our glutes. And then back down, glutes, hamstrings, till we get to the back of the knee. And just with an open palm, we're just going to massage, rub enough friction to generate some warmth on the backs and then the outside. And then still lateral, but just to the side, the outside of the knee. And then to the inside medial knee. with the finger pads. And then the medial knee, more of the fingers. And then the whole palm, fingers reach around to the back actually. Really get the inside of the knee. And then kneecaps, patellas in your palms. And we're going to move them around so that they only really move around if your knees are locked. And then we're going to check that your feet are about shoulder width apart. We're going to do a little knee dip. So now we're not pushing the knees forward. We're sitting down with our sit bones toward our heels. So the knees are moving, obviously, but it's just folding. They're not pushing forward. So keep them over your feet, over that bubbling spring point. And we'll do a half a dozen little squats. And then we'll go a little deeper, another half dozen medium squats. And then I'll face you again. And then down with the thighs more parallel to the earth. Do another half dozen squats. And then we're going to hold and we're going to push in and resist. So you're pushing in as hard as you can, but resisting. And then we're going to reach inside the knee and pull out, resist. And then maybe we'll squat. Hang our heads between our knees again. Wiggle around. Wedge the knees apart. That whole thing was kind of nice. Okay. And we'll come up, maybe rub your knees and kneecaps again. And let's see, let's do this. Nice wide stance. We're gonna push off the inside of the knee and stretch our backs. So this is your latissimus coming down from the back of your shoulder to your knees. So I'm just going back and forth, left and right, not shifting my weight left and right, but really just trying to stretch my back muscles. Sort of like our latissimus. Now you can add a little to it by really working the neck, really looking back toward the opposite side. We're already doing that, but you can accentuate that. Okay, and then we're gonna turn around and look behind us. And here, I'm reaching with my eyes, I'm stretching them and looking, and I'm working upward. So each pivot, my gaze goes higher and higher till I get to a point overhead. And it'll take me maybe a dozen passes to get to overhead. So it's kind of working the stretch right up our spine, so overhead. And then we're going to work back down, same thing, but we're going to add a little hold, brief hold. Until we get back to where we started and we're looking straight behind us. Okay, then we're going to turn the feet out and we're going to do some side bends. And this will be the last thing we do for this segment. And you widen your stance as you loosen up. Going wider and wider. Really stretching all the way from your armpit to your hips. Okay, and we'll just walk it back in, feet together, and let's shake a little bit, begin to finish up. And always when you're shaking, just let your breath and your voice go, make some noise, doesn't matter what it is. But don't be afraid of being silly. Okay. We'll call it a wrap.